The movie begins with two Green Berets interrogating a suspect about the whereabouts of some hostages. There is a strike incoming, but the interrogator Burton decides to stay behind to get answers. He shoots the man in the leg, but he just laughs it off, telling him he will never find the hostages. Burton has had enough and shoots the man in the head, killing him, but the man just laughs. When Burton removes his hood, he is shocked to see his own face. This turns out to be a dream as Burton, now homeless, wakes up on a park bench. He heads to the bathrooms nearby to wash up, looking at his scars of war. He then leaves flowers on the grave of his father and salutes with pride. We then see Mafia boss Gorm pull up to his gang hideout. His men have kidnapped some girls to be used in their trafficking ring, but Gorm is not impressed with how they look and orders his men to clean them up before bringing them to his business place. For the next order of business, Gorm's men have captured a rival after he failed to stop doing business in Gorm's territory. Gorm orders him to leave his city, but the man calls Gorm just an old man. Despite the insult, Gorm will let him live to send a message back to his friends, and if they cross him again, he will kill them all. The captured man doesn't realize the trouble he is in and flips Gorm off, so Gorm has him sent to the Red Room. Meanwhile, Burton is met by his father's comrade Carver, who has missed Burton at their meetings. Carver has heard about Burton's living conditions and offers him a room, food, and clothes as he wants to help get Burton back on his feet. Gorm has brought his captive to the Red Room and there he uses an axe to cut the man's fingers off, telling his men to ensure that everyone sees him. Burton gets himself cleaned up, and he and Carver head over to a local pub. There they meet up with other former soldiers who all give their accounts on the hardships of war and living with themselves afterward. Burton is standing a distance off listening in, and another soldier, Peck, explains that they don't plan to leave any of their comrades behind, including Burton. Gorm sends his hitman Savo to kill the man they earlier released. The man is inside making coffee when Savo outs his cigar and enters the apartment building. He knocks at a door, but it is the wrong apartment, and the woman kindly directs him to the right place. At that moment, two cops also arrive at the apartment complex to speak with the victim. When Savo gets to the right apartment and guns down the man, the cops hear the gunfire and give chase. Savo runs away from the scene with a cop in pursuit, while Detective Moore, who needs to sue her plastic surgeon, clears the apartment. She catches up with the other cop, but Savo has already escaped. Back at the meeting in the pub, the men ask Burton to share something with them. Burton eventually tells them about the nightmares he has been having and how real it feels. He never had much of a life as he joined the military at an early age, and the horrors he had to face and partake in really took a toll on him. When all the good memories faded, only the bad ones surfaced and led him down a dark path. After sharing this personal story, all the men share a laugh about whose turn it is to buy them all drinks. After the meeting, Burton thanks Carver for inviting him. Carver leaves him the house keys as he has to go help his daughter with something. Carver then heads over to a pub run by Savo, where the doorman stops him. He tries insulting Carver, but Carver hits him in the throat, knocking him out. He goes inside where Savo is surprised to see the old man, but Carver tells him he showed the bouncer his ID. It turns out that the gang has been intimidating Carver's daughter, who is a local counselor, and Carver politely asks him to stop. Carver criticizes the sloppy operation they run, warning that sooner or later they will get caught. Savo takes his words as a threat, but Carver reminds him it's just a chance to do the right thing before leaving. The men contact Gorm and tell him about the old man. Later, Carver is walking through the park when he realizes he is being followed. He rings Peck's phone and hangs up to give his location. Soon, Carver finds himself surrounded by Savo and his men. Carver holds his ground, knocking out one man before they all jump in and brutally beat him on the street. Carver's daughter gets to the apartment and is startled by Burton. She asks for her father as he did not return home last night and learns that he should have been with her. Judy recognizes Burton's name as their fathers were once in the same unit. She is worried about her father and has been trying and failing to get through to him. Burton asks if she knows what he had to help her with, and Judy says no, but seems to be hiding the truth. She is back at her home when Detective Moore and Collins turn up and break the terrible news to her, and she breaks down in tears. Burton is woken up by a phone call from Judy, who tells him that Carver was found dead. She tells him the police will be visiting him soon to get info about Carver's last whereabouts and asks Burton to show up to his funeral when it's announced. Moore and Collins go to speak with Burton, and he tells them how Carver had been helping him out. Burton has no idea why anyone would want to kill Carver, so the cops leave promising to keep in touch. At the funeral gathering, all the former soldiers pay their respects, all promising to be there for Judy. Judy goes to sit outside to catch her breath when Burton joins her. She is angry and wants the men found and dealt with. She finally reveals that she is the counselor and has been fighting against the rising drug infestation in the community. However, due to this, she began getting death threats. She tells Burton about Gorm, who has been expanding his territory and is threatening to overrun the town. She told Carver about the issues she was facing, and Burton now understands the cause of all this. Burton returns to the pub where Peck, Woody, and Harris are chatting. He tells them they have a chance to get their hands on Carver's killers and tells them the situation with Judy and Gorm's gang. Burton is determined to avenge Carver as he was a good man, and the cops are not pursuing the matter. Since he knows where the gang is located, he plans to stake out the place, gather more intel, and then engage. Harris thinks it's a suicide mission as the new guys on the streets are ruthless. Woody and Peck decide to join Burton, so Harris decides to finally join them. They then plan to meet tomorrow to check what weapons they have. Gorm is in his office when he gets a visit from Collins and Moore. They want him to come with them to the station, but Gorm refuses as he knows what this is all about, claiming that the old man's death breaks his heart. They ask about his whereabouts on the night of the murder, but Gorm claims that he was with his men playing cards and there is footage to prove it. With this, the cops decide to leave, but Moore tells him to send in his witnesses and video footage that he claims he has. Burton is at the apartment and almost comes to tears looking at a photo of Carver. The next day, the men all meet up. Burton has brought 2 Glocks and a flash grenade, and Peck an old pistol. Woody, however, has brought garden shears, a fishing reel, and a crossbow. Harris wants to go last and then pulls out a real grenade and a live claymore. Burton again reminds the men they can pull out at any time, but the men are in, and Harris really wants to blow something up. The men begin staking out the gang spot and see an exchange happening. They follow the courier back into town and see him pull up to the club and suspect this is where Carver went. Peck plans to see a man named Sanchez to get more info about the gang and its dealings. Peck and Woody leave to speak with Sanchez while Burton and Harris head inside the club as normal customers. They get drinks and a seat and spot a man they think to be in charge. Burton then pretends to take a picture of Harris, capturing the man sitting directly behind Harris. He then plans to send it to Peck to see if Sanchez can make out anyone. Peck goes to meet with Sanchez, who apologizes about Carver. Peck shows him the photo Burton sent over, and Sanchez recognizes the man as one of Gorm's 3 henchmen who, along with Gorm, call themselves the Four Horsemen. Sanchez then explains how Gorm is part of a larger syndicate taking over Europe and has a large drug and human trafficking ring. He adds how ruthless they are, with even old gangsters like him having to step aside or be killed. He warns Peck that if he is going up against the gang, then he better be ready. He promises to help with info as he is too old to fight but makes Peck promise to kill them all. The 4 soldiers then regroup, making plans to launch an assault on the club. Harris enters the club in a suit, pretending to pay to have some alone time with a woman. Once he enters the room, he pulls his gun and alerts the other men. Woody creates a distraction outside, while Burton bursts in guns blazing, demanding from an injured man the location of their warehouse, but he reaches for his gun and gets shot. Just then, a girl nearby reveals she knows where the gang's warehouse is and gives them the location. Afterwards, Moore and Collins, who seem to be the only detectives in London, are called to the scene, trying to figure out who could be brave enough to hit Gorm. We then see Harris acting drunk outside Savo's club when suddenly the lights inside go out. The bouncer comes to chase Harris away but gets knocked out. Burton and Peck in full masks then enter and begin cutting down everyone, including the bartender. Savo tries to fight back but gets shot and injured. They force Savo to call Gorm and alert him, then shoot Savo dead. Burton then grabs a ledger sitting nearby before heading back to the car and leaving. Gorm and his man recall Carver mentioning a councilwoman, and Gorm orders his man to track down Judy, and they will find the 4 old men. He then orders his man to get the ledger back, even if it means killing everyone. Moore is in a meeting with her superintendent, who thinks that the killings are personal. Moore reveals her suspicions about the 4 old men, and the superintendent thinks the geriatrics could be involved. She wants Moore to hit up her CIA ex, Donovan, to see if he can get background checks on the old men. Judy is at her home being watched by a gangster when Burton ambushes and attacks him. He tells the man to return with a message to Gorm that his days are numbered. He then goes to Judy and explains what has been happening. Moore reaches out to Donovan, who has got intel about Peck, Woody, and Harris, but thinks at their current age, they shouldn't have much fight left. Moore's concern is Burton, who has been involved in some secretive missions across the world which even he cannot access. Despite their age, he thinks together these old soldiers could be the ones picking off Gorm as they are more than capable. The 4 men are making plans and decide to hit Gorm's warehouse, but force the men to attack them at their hideout, which they would have leaked through Sanchez. At Gorm's warehouse, Woody ambushes a guard and shoots him with a crossbow before calling the other guys in. Harris plants a bomb under a car before they come under gunfire from Gorm and his men. The men retreat to the car and escape, with Gorm chasing after them. The warehouse then explodes. Peck calls Sanchez and learns that Gorm has all his men looking for them. Burton reveals the plan to get their location to Gorm, and Sanchez has the right guy to do the job. Gorm orders his men to grab Judy. He gets a call from Apollo, who gives him a tip on where the old men are hiding out. Apollo works for the same syndicate Gorm does and warns him to handle business or he better make plans to retire early. Judy is at her home when she is grabbed by Gorm's gangsters. The men meet up once more, now in a solemn mood, as they make preparations to meet their maker. They make a toast to Carver and prepare themselves. A few hours later, Gorm's small army pulls up to the pub heavily armed and surrounds the building. The men inside take up their positions inside, and as the men enter, the old soldiers launch their attack on the men. Burton fights off a few men while Peck gets shot in the leg but kills his attacker. Soon after, Gorm enters holding Judy at gunpoint, demanding that the men hand over his ledger or he kills her. Burton aims his gun at him but is forced to stand down in fear for Judy's life. Gorm tries killing him, but Woody shoots Gorm, who manages to escape. Outside, Moore and Collins, who are responding to gunfire, encounter one of Gorm's men and shoot him dead. Burton goes looking for Gorm but is ambushed and attacked. Gorm has another one of his men there, and both men attack Burton. Burton manages to barely hold his own against them until Judy comes in for the assist. She escapes, with the man chasing after her, but Woody kills him with the fishing reel. With no assistance, Burton easily kills Gorm by breaking his neck. Moore and Collins arrive at the pub to see all 4 men sitting and having a drink, swearing they were about to call the cops. The men explain that some unknown armed men broke into their pub and they were forced to kill them all. Somehow one of the men dropped an entire ledger, which they hand over to the cops, who just play along with the men's excuses. A few days later, the men, along with Judy and Moore, all gather for toast to Carver. Peck gets a call from Sanchez, who congratulates him and tells him a friend is coming to see him. Soon after, a man comes in, knowing everyone's names, and introduces himself as Palmer, working for some secret agency that wants to use their services and leaves a flash drive with more information.